Grace's memoir, now a bestseller, propels her into the spotlight as an advocate for overcoming toxic relationships. While promoting her book, she receives an unexpected letter from Evelyn. The letter is an apology, but also a plea for Grace to meet her one last time. Evelyn, now living in isolation, appears to be a shadow of her former self. She is struggling with guilt and loneliness. She begins to reflect on her actions. Grace is torn between her newfound peace and the lingering question of whether Evelyn deserves a chance at redemption. Daniel encourages Grace to make the decision for herself, not out of obligation or guilt. Grace agrees to meet Evelyn in a public cafe, setting the stage for a tense reunion. Evelyn looks frail and subdued, a stark contrast to her once dominating presence. She apologizes sincerely, admitting that her actions were driven by deep-seated insecurities and a fear of abandonment. Grace listens, but remains guarded, questioning whether Evelyn's apology is genuine or another manipulation. Evelyn reveals that she's been attending therapy and offers proof, a journal filled with reflections and letters she's written to Grace and others she's hurt. Meanwhile, Michael resurfaces, requesting to co-parent Emma more actively. His reappearance reignites old wounds for Grace, but she resolves to maintain boundaries for Emma's sake. Grace leaves the cafe, her emotions conflicted as Evelyn watches her go with tears in her eyes. Evelyn begins making small gestures to show her sincerity, sending Emma thoughtful gifts, supporting Grace's advocacy work anonymously, and even apologizing to Michael. Michael, however, is less forgiving and confronts Evelyn about her role in destroying his family. The confrontation is intense, but it forces Evelyn to fully acknowledge the damage she caused. Grace focuses on her thriving relationship with Daniel, who suggests they take a trip to celebrate her success. During their getaway, Grace realizes how far she's come, but is haunted by recurring dreams of her father and Evelyn, suggesting unresolved trauma. Grace visits her father's grave for the first time in years, where she whispers, "I hope you can forgive me for forgiving her." Grace cautiously allows Evelyn to visit Emma under strict supervision. The visit is emotional, as Evelyn interacts with her granddaughter for the first time in months. Emma, unaware of the full extent of Evelyn's actions, innocently bonds with her grandmother, reigniting Grace's internal conflict. Michael's attempts to reintegrate himself into Emma's life create tension between him and Daniel, who has become a father figure to Emma. Daniel confronts Michael, warning him not to disrupt the stability he and Grace have built. Grace starts receiving anonymous threatening messages, hinting at someone who blames her for exposing family secrets in her memoir. Suspense builds as Grace begins to suspect someone close to her. A shadowy figure watches Grace and Emma from afar, leaving viewers on edge. The identity of the anonymous harasser is revealed, an estranged relative from Evelyn's side of the family, furious that Grace aired their family's dirty laundry in her book. This relative confronts Evelyn, accusing her of ruining the family's reputation. Evelyn defends Grace, marking a pivotal moment in her redemption arc. She takes accountability for her past actions publicly, writing an open letter to Grace's blog audience about the importance of owning one's mistakes. Meanwhile, Grace and Michael's co-parenting relationship becomes strained when Emma overhears a heated argument between them. Daniel steps in to mediate, but the tension leaves Grace questioning whether she can ever truly move on while Michael is in her life. Evelyn confronts the estranged relative, declaring, "I ruined my relationship with my daughter. Don't make the same mistake with yours." Evelyn begins volunteering at a women's shelter, using her story as a cautionary tale to help others avoid her mistakes. Her growth impresses Grace, who starts to soften, but remains cautious. Michael, unable to handle the strain of co-parenting and his own unresolved guilt, makes a drastic decision to move to another state. Before leaving, he has a heartfelt conversation with Grace, apologizing for his role in their downfall. He promises to stay in touch with Emma. Grace feels a mixture of relief and sadness, knowing this chapter of her life is finally closing. Evelyn, meanwhile, continues to make amends, even reaching out to Aunt Clara to mend old wounds. Evelyn gives Grace a heartfelt letter, asking her to read it when she's ready. Grace reads Evelyn's letter, which details her lifelong struggles with self-worth and the immense regret she carries for hurting Grace and her father. Evelyn admits she doesn't expect full forgiveness, but hopes Grace can find peace in letting go of the past. Grace decides to forgive Evelyn, not for Evelyn's sake, but for her own. She invites Evelyn to join a family dinner with her, Daniel, and Emma. The atmosphere is tentative but warm, marking a new beginning for their fractured relationship. Meanwhile, Grace's blog is adapted into a documentary series, bringing her story to an even wider audience. She uses the platform to emphasize healing, forgiveness, and setting boundaries. Daniel proposes to Grace during a picnic with Emma. As Grace says yes, Evelyn watches from a distance, smiling through tears. Her redemption is bittersweet, but she's content knowing she's taken steps to repair what she once broke. Watch out for Season 4.